wine country, so that was ironic. Thanks for having me. I'm going to kick it off just with some energy. This is just a little intro to wake us up. People at home, turn up your volume. People at home, that's real audio. Everybody's going crazy. That's what that cheering was. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is great opportunity. This is a great partner for us. So this is exciting for us to come in and just get to hang out and kind of tell the story. A little background to me. I'm a friend of dogs, like dogs. It's not my dog, just met him. We have a routine now that we do. It's great. But at my core, I'm an agency media guy. That's my background. So I oversee most of our performance channels now, so paid media, influencer, email, all that jazz. From an affiliate standpoint, anybody that does affiliate, come find me. I'm learning. It's a new space for me. Would love to talk to you. So there's that plug. So if you don't know who Chubbies is, who we are that clothing brand that evokes that Friday at 5 feeling. And we try to do that at any point, like a Thursday at 3:30. I'm excited to be in shorts and not pants, coming from the Bay Area. Suit culture is very uncomfortable for me, so this is great. I like this. A little bit about the brand. I actually started in October, so I'm fairly new to the brand. Understood the brand just from probably the same way a lot of you guys do, from random social posts you see or friends sharing something, people on a bachelor party, something like that. That's real goofy. But a little bit about the founders. The brand really started with what we learned in writing classes. Any good story starts with a conflict, and that conflict was the market of 2008. It was 4 Stanford guys that graduated and were doing finance, VC. Rainer was in retail, but they were struggling because they were constantly feeling this pressure of needing to be connected, never having a break, and especially early in their careers, needing to really fight. And they wanted to find that moment of sort of release, an authentic, relaxing moment in the middle of the chaos. And so they went searching for it, like any good millennial. They thought about their parents and were like, it was so easy back then. Why was it so easy and cool? And they kind of started doing some digging, went to the photo albums, and started to find really funny stuff like this. And so in your agenda, you saw the word nostalgia. This is where it comes from. This was the moment of inspiration where they were looking back and they were romanticizing the past in terms of this relaxed, the more thigh, the more fun. And this was actually when I saw one of these posts, is the first real connection I had with the brand, because I grew up in the Bay Area, which meant I would go up to Tahoe on vacation. We'd rent a cabin with a family. And I vividly remember looking at the photos on the wall. And it was always these great 70s and 80s photos of guys in their short shorts playing something on the beach, or during the winter time, the winter cabins, it was these ridiculous one-piece ski suits that you see definitely also coming back in full force right now. And so this is when we talk about kind of the moment of inspiration. That's the nostalgia. You hear the words retro, throwback a lot with our brand. But you fast forward, and this is what we're seeing everywhere. men's short length is no longer the long cargo, the long board short. This is a norm in the market now, which is very exciting for us that we were part of that sort of transition, that stimulation. But it means that a lot of competitors have popped up, and major brands with lots of budget are jumping right into the game. So a little background on sort of like how it evolved. And because I started in October, I have had the opportunity to dive in with the founders and partners and people that have known the brand for longer than I have, and really get a sense of how this started, how it gained traction, how it went from kind of a retro throwback moment up in Tahoe to a real brand. The biggest thing is definitely the community building. That's the essence of what they did and what grew the company. Was right place, right time, in a sense of being in Silicon Valley next to Facebook and Google and all the social platforms popping up, growing with them. But really they wanted to build something that was for them and for their friends. And they thought about the platforms, they thought about the content, and they tried to figure out what's the easiest way to get stuff distributed that would make me feel good and have that Friday at 5 feeling at any moment in my day. And let's build a community around that. And oh, by the way, short shorts are awesome and they're fun. So that was the sort of, the momentum started there, very socially active, very organic. We have a chart showing the top brands in terms of video distribution, video reach, and I think it was a 2016 survey, and we were above Nike, we were above brands that are spending billions of dollars, and I can't remember what the marketing budget was back then, but it was a fraction of that, and it was because it was all organic distribution of the videos. The founders are incredible at including everyone in creative ideation. At every moment of the day, you're on tap for a creative idea, and you're on tap to be in a video or a shoot or something like that. No one is safe. Absolutely no one is safe. If you are coming into the office, you are going to get put in a video, sometimes in the studio, and something you're totally initially uncomfortable wearing, and then you're fine with it. You go from the 7-inch to the 5.5-inch inseam to the 4-inch inseam very quickly. It's an incredible moment where you're like, what happened? I've only been in the company for that long. So it is a fun environment to be part of. We have people that came from New York that were actors within our content team. We have a stand-up comedian that writes a lot of our content, and they are amazing at getting all of us in a room and just lobbing stuff out and seeing what everybody comes up with. So that's an amazing piece. The founders are a huge part of that because they're the first ones in all the time. They're the ones that want to drive the meeting, but they're also the first ones to raise their hand to be in the content if it needs to happen, and that permeates across the entire environment. So that is a fun culture to be part of, and I think it has helped build the brand to where it is. The other 2 points that have been hammered home, so I won't sit on those, is test everything, test the test. If it's not working, test it again. Like, that's just how we operate. If you saw something from us, especially from a paid perspective, it was most likely a test and not like the full send. And then, provoke everything with, that follow-up question about what was the data proving that. If you don't have it, go find data that shows that is the right thing to do, because someone else has probably tried it and had success or failed. So those are kind of the core things. This kind of little snapshot of some of the videos and the content that we have to show a few things, and I'll ask some follow-up questions about sort of common themes and trends you saw in these slides. But this one is very easy. They're always trying to evoke that fun emotion, that Friday at 5 feeling, whenever you come across it.
What do you usually carry around with you?
Axe, hold and touch, gossip girl. All my receipts, Blair Witch Garage, so in right now, Kenny G, my diary, Breakfast Bear Club, the old point and shoot, in case I come across a computer, Command and Conquer, Pocket Puzzle, another puka shell, Double D.
Okay, there's that one. Things cargo shorts say. That is Mason. He's the head of our brand content. He's also a surfer, and that is Shredding the Gnar. Genius, simple, love it. The next stuff is timely and relevant. I think this is a really big one for us. In agency life, I've been with a lot of brands that take so long to go from we should do this to it going to market. And we all know that that will kill any good idea. Any momentum that you had is dead if you have too long of a process. It's hockey playoff season. Go Sharks. This we post during the playoffs. We turned it around in an hour after we realized that we needed to put something out to that hockey audience.
Dude, did you just send another reply all email? What? Why do you always do that? You just press reply.
No, 2 minutes! Bullshit! That's bullshit! 2 minutes! That's bullshit! You know that's a bad call! That's bush league! 2 minutes! That's ridiculous!
That's our office in San Francisco as well. This was when the mannequin challenge was all the rage. We got in, I think, right as a lot of like the sports teams were doing it and stuff like that. And this is our take.
Do we get it? Can I move? I told you not to move!
So there's that. And this is just some of the still content that we put out on social. And this is the thing that jumps out the most to me is when I think about my first touch points with a brand. I hope it's none of you, but some of you may consider us a little bro-y at times. These were friends from college that tried to start something and wanted to resonate with their friends and grow that network. Now, Kyle, our CEO, has one child, a second one on the way. Tom's going off to get married soon. The core of our group is growing and maturing, and so is the brand with it. And that was something that was very, very obvious as I started to look back to pull some of the old content and put that together in that our customer is doing the same thing. Our long-term customers are growing, maturing, they're going through these major life moments, and we're creating content that is relevant to us in those moments and also relevant to them. A lot of this is UGC, by the way, that we get permission to repost. It's a lot of customers saying, some just amazing creative stuff that we love to send back out over the channel. So a couple things, I'll open it up. The first one is production quality. Sort of touched on that. If you are needing to invest a ton of money and go through an insane process of getting creative approval to post anything on social, I feel like you don't understand how social media works. I understand the risk of social. It's insane these days. There's trolls everywhere, but if you're trying to harness social, going through a 1,000-step process to get approval on content is gonna kill any momentum that you had with that content. We have very low operating costs, obviously. You see the production quality, and we turn it around instantly. Happens right there in the office the same day we have the creative meeting. The comments were something that, see if you guys can see it on the screen, but the first one, a lot of people tagging their friends. We love to see that. It's resonating. They're thinking about someone specifically. That happens all the time. The other ones are sort of intent-based that we try to pick up on. So this one is great. Would be wonderful for the bachelor party. Some sort of purchase intent that we're picking up on there. This is one, need matching suits for the ladies. This is one that our most common comment in the last 6 months has been, when is the ladies stuff dropping? And that has absolutely informed stuff that we're doing internally when it comes to our merchandising and all of that. When we see that print getting that comment the most, we know that that's probably something we should prioritize for the women's line. And so don't underestimate the value of sifting through social. It's a depressing place when you do it. It's a pit. It's a total pit. I was going through Facebook and they have a team that goes through all the content. And all I want to do is send them puppies and flowers because it is gross when you do it, but there's so many valuable nuggets that you can pull out of it. And a lot of times it is your customer or someone who is engaging with you in a way they've put the effort out, and you can pick up on some really interesting things by doing that. All right. All right, so now into the meat of sort of my role, and try to skim through this sort of paid social part. There's a lot of people in the room that, this could take weeks to dive through all the details. So the one thing that I noticed when I came in was just how competitive we all are on that team. Myself very much included on that. And also the need to understand the rules of the game. The game is always changing. The marketplace is changing, the algorithms are constantly changing, and we want to stay ahead of that. We want to understand what are the rules we have to play within so that we can be most effective and efficient. And so there are a lot of programs that I've run where I missed something with how bidding optimization was working for Facebook in over a course of a 6-month period. And I was running a program that was, creative rotation was running counter to how that was working in the marketplace. There's details that actually, if you can get ahead of it, you can actually fine-tune your program and be more effective and efficient. And if you're misaligned there, it can actually have a lot of negative effects on the efficiency of your program. Iterate, that's an obvious one. We're always testing new stuff out, always getting content out to new audiences before we do any sort of full send. The piece about being competitive and needing to know all the details, we were comfortable with saying we'll do that for paid social, and it was a very obvious moment when we said we need to find a partner for search and shopping. And so this is my plug of we would not be able to do what we're doing without the group. Nostalgia is part of my theme, so I'm going to call it Elite, and then we'll transition over at the end, just, But no, the partnership is amazing because we can focus where we need to focus when it comes to this environment, and there's no way with the size of the team that we have that we would be able to stay ahead of both platforms at any given moment. And so we have to rely on that group. The team does an amazing job. Because I was from the agency side, I promised I would be the good client, the fun client, fun brand. All right, I'm gonna come in and be super relaxed. It's gonna be great. And then team, if you're listening, I'm sorry for all the BS. There are so many moments where I'm like, that was conflicting information. I give you this high ROAS goal, and then I gut the product feed because I don't like what's showing up. I don't like what Google is prioritizing. Constantly skeptical of the machine. Use the machine, but be skeptical. But I need that team to be able to say, that's stupid because that's going to do this, 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 and this. And they have the context. That's essential for us when it comes to the search and shopping side, so we can focus on other channels, but for us, really creative and content and how that shows up, especially in things like shopping, product feeds, things like that. Let's see, brand versus non-brand. So Courtney and I went through kind of a couple little points that, there's a lot of experts in the room. What's kind of unique about us and some of the things that we've had recently come up. The brand versus non-brand, just constantly be testing that. I think an assumption that we made, or that I make personally, is that stays consistent throughout the course of a year, a quarter, whatever it is. There's so many different things, variables within the marketplace that could be affecting how your brand is showing up and the intent behind an actual branded search. So constantly be testing that, constantly be in the market for testing that to understand what that fluctuation is. That's something that we continue to try to prioritize to understand, is that an incremental investment that we're making on brand, or is it, something that we could be putting to new customer acquisition and we don't need it right now. So that's one that's come up a lot. Let's see, search versus shopping. That's your guys' world. You guys can dive into that. You should ask them. It's incredible, totally different. Another great thing is the prioritization of tactics and placements that Google is prioritizing. Ultimately, they're in control, right? And I say Google. I'm sure Bing is included in here somewhere if there's someone from Microsoft I apologize that Google is the only thing that's here. But Google is going to prioritize stuff that they're testing, things like that. And so you need a partner that can stay at the forefront of that so that you can mirror that timeline. If they're testing out a new product, there's probably a pretty good opportunity for a brand to jump in and test that product out and get priority in an auction, see how it's working for you. It could be a unique space where that product is really good for your brand, but maybe not another, or vice versa. Test it out. So use the team for that. Local inventory ads, that's one that I've heard has been a struggle for a lot of brands. We're optimistic. We're not live yet, but we're optimistic with it because we're at a size where our inventory isn't super intense, and so we can get into the customization of that pretty easily and test it out in the beginning. So we're hoping that helps out. I'm looking at the time. I'm gonna try to rush through a little bit. Influencer marketing, I'll kind of skip over that. Retail and wholesale, that's an interesting one for us. I think it's very interesting the way they've designed Tommy Bahama being here and then Chubbies. Different moments, definitely a very different core audience. And for us, we are an e-com based, social based brand at our core, whereas they were the wholesale world, and we're now dabbling in brick and mortar. We have a lot of stores down in the Southeast. We are starting our wholesale partnerships and trying to understand what that looks like. And for me, it is truly about, from an omni-channel perspective, from a marketing perspective, especially as it influences e-com, what does that look like? How can we scalably customize content for each of the markets through our retail employees, and how are they the boots on the ground to get back to us, and we can update programming. And for wholesale, how do we look at that as like a true brand collaboration versus a sales channel partnership, and understand where that sort of brand equity is with them, and how can we get in a creative room together and both do what we're best at and partner with each other in that way. And that, I think, is a little bit of a different approach because ultimately, I'm looking at it from a marketing standpoint. It's a new test for us, and trying to understand what that omni-channel growth is. If any of the design team is listening, which that would be insane if they are, we love you and thank you for everything you do. Without you, none of this would actually exist. This print is actually a watercolor that one of our designers did at home on a Tuesday night. And I can't remember if she showed it or brought it in, but one of the other designers loved it and put it on a print, and everybody loved it. It's actually one of our top performing shirts on the site right now. So there's, all of this fun social, a lot of marketing people come up and say, we're a clothing brand, but we're also a media brand. And ultimately without the product and without the clothes, none of this would exist. And so we love you guys, and thank you very much for all the fun, comfortable, and all that you build for us. I think that's it. So I will end with, I showed you kind of our fun, scrappy stuff. This is, when we put a little bit of an investment behind, these are our 2 national TV spots that we're running. Some of you may have seen these, but this is kind of what our brand content looks like in the market right now.
Rapunzel, let down your hair.
I just got it cut. Do you like it?
No, it looks great.
Climb it.
Some things are meant to be short. Would you say it's too short?
Yes.
Except, of course, shorts. Chubbies. Proper length men's shorts.
This is Kelvin. Kelvin is dancing. Kelvin is dancing because his thighs are gloriously free in his new chubby swim trunks. He's not thinking about emails or status reports or documents of any kind. Instead, Kelvin is thinking jackknife or cannonball, moonwalk or running man, pina colada or mai tai. Is this pool 72 or 73 degrees Fahrenheit? Be like Kelvin. Go to chubbyshorts.com now.
All right, where am I? I'm trying to figure out if I have time for questions. I got 2 minutes? Sweet. All right. So who has questions about anything? Open forum. Anything about how it started, what we're doing, how we're using it? Yes.
Life cycle of your products,
Yeah, so the question at home is life cycle of our products, especially our prints. You know, unique, fun prints. Do they last a long time? Some of them do, absolutely. We've had a couple prints that is, you know, we didn't know what was going to happen. They were kind of tests, and they hit the market, and they sold out instantly. We bought back into them, we chased, and they've been top products for multiple years, which is really cool. I think that there is a community aspect to a few of our prints that people, I mean, I was walking down the beach in Cancun for a bachelor party. Of course, that's where I was. And actually had some dude run out of the water and high-five me because we had the same Chubbies swim trunks on. It's like, oh my gosh, this actually happens. Like, San Francisco, that's not where that would happen. You know, so there is a bit of a community aspect to the product because the prints are kind of loud. And then, yeah, we definitely see things that fade out. I think that we are in a place right now where the number of SKUs we had on our site, like this Q1 versus last Q1, was like double. So we're definitely in a place where we're growing from a silhouette and a line perspective, and really still trying to figure that out. What our core customer comes and how often they're repeating certain silhouettes versus testing new styles. But we do see you know, the number one product that someone buys after they buy these, which we call PFDs, our normal casual originals, is one of these. They like the product, they come back and get another one in a different color or replace it when they spill on it or rip it or whatever it ends up being. So we see really, really positive numbers there.
Yeah. You mentioned you do a lot of organic social.
Yep.
Do you guys do any paid social?
Yeah, so a ton of paid social. That's our biggest investment. Didn't really touch on that from a creative standpoint, which is an important point. I think that, you know, organic is kind of how the brand originally grew. And then where we're at right now, a lot of our paid investments are product marketing focused versus the branding side. Brand, you know, kind of goes everywhere else for us from a media investment standpoint. But the thing about our product ads is they're very on brand. Like, the brand comes through in our product ads. They're goofy. They're, you know, they're all over the place. And so I think that is something that we've noticed, is when we can get the brand to really come through in a product shot, and it's that wonderful balance of product details versus, you know, our ridiculous humor. Where's that balance to stay on brand? So where those investments really are driving brand awareness as well. Yep.
What are your thoughts on developing engaging content and driving organic sharing if your brand isn't Chubbies?
If your brand isn't Chubbies, yeah, I worked on lots of non-Chubbies brands for a really long time. I think that, you know, the cheap answer out is data driven. Like, if the reach isn't there, we know that. You know, big brands, big followers, the percent of organic reach is abysmal at this point. I think that there's definitely value to some of the testing you can do with some of the organic content. You know, maybe not that false, you know, idea that everything could potentially go viral and be a big moment for the brand, but, you know, testing messages out on organic and things like that to understand how it resonates. B2B or B2C? What B2C? Yeah, I think that organic social is important. Just, you know, one of the big things that we're paying attention to is, you know, our age splits, you know, and understanding like what platform to be on and why. And if, you know, we look at the demographic that's on Facebook and Instagram versus Snapchat, and we're able to very clearly see changes in our customer base and the data with our reach and things like that. And, you know, there is absolutely a forum organically for a brand to come through and for you to learn what's resonating with the people that follow you, with your customer base. And it's just a different user experience when it's paid versus organic. And so we continue to lean into it. Snapchat is one that we literally used to post every day. That was crazy. Like, those guys used to sit in a room, figure out what they're shooting for Snapchat that day, and they would shoot it. We don't do that anymore, but that was because we had a lot of data to show that the return wasn't quite there. However, we are very aware that a younger demographic is there, and we need to get in front of them some fashion. So there's a balance that you can find. And when you're testing, you can see that change pretty clearly and get back into it. You have time? Nope, that's it. Get me off the stage. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it. And yeah.